what's up, Slunts? Joker here. Today I want to talk to you guys about Rainbow Six Siege and the closed alpha that they held this past week. I wanted to hold back from putting up a video too early on because I wanted to play the game throughout the entire week and get a good feel for it and see if they put out any patches that addressed some of the things that I had noticed as being issues with the game, and we'll get into those in just a little bit. But first I want to touch on the few things that I did like about the alpha, and then I'm going to get into the things that I didn't care for in the alpha that I would like to see them fixed between now and the time that the game does come out, which was recently announced as October 16th, 2015. It was announced 2 days ago that that is the official release date, so they're just 6 months away. And if the alpha that we saw right now is indicative of how far they are right now in progress as far as developing the game, and it's not an earlier build, then they have a long way to go in that 6-month time span. So let's start looking at it now and talk about some of the good things about Rainbow Six Siege. Alright, so the first thing I want to touch on that I really like is just the basic concept of Rainbow Six Siege. I think that the 5v5 competitive scene is pretty much, confined almost like to Counter-Strike, basically, and it's nice to see a big AAA publisher, even if it is Ubisoft or Ubishit, depending on your opinion of the company. It's nice to see someone trying to put their toes in that water, seeing that there is value in that market, and develop a big budget AAA title around it. So I was looking forward to seeing Rainbow Six Siege, and I was glad that I was able to get hands-on and play it because the concept is great. Doing just the types of things that you do in the game, like rappelling down the sides of houses or buildings, and swinging through the windows and breaching through walls. All that stuff just never gets old. It totally feeds into what they're trying to do with Siege. And if it was just a standard run and gun game and it didn't have those elements there and they didn't work well and have the level of destructibility that they have in Siege, then a lot of this just wouldn't work and it would just seem like a Counter-Strike clone. But they've tried to adapt that and build on that and just do more than what has been done with Counter-Strike. Even though Counter-Strike is a fantastic game, it's been around for ages, and CSGO I feel like has had a big resurgence in the last year in the competitive scene, and a lot of people have started to shift over to CSGO. So that whole entire genre of competitive shooters is really blowing up right now. But I like to see that Ubisoft tried to do something a little bit more aggressive and try to adapt it a little bit and make it more of a AAA experience and add some Levolution type tactic events into the game, like being able to breach through walls and barricade and things like that. Also, just to touch briefly on the performance, there's not really any optimized drivers for this yet, so we're not seeing any SLI profiles, and you can't tweak any of the graphics options in the game at this point in time, which is understandable, and some textures in the game are even missing with, like, the words alpha written across it, which, I'm not gonna harp on them for that. It's whatever, it's an alpha, I understand, but I don't know what settings this is indicative of for when we do see the final release. Is this low settings, medium, high, ultra? I don't know. But for what it is right now on 1980 with no SLI support, I'm seeing 110, 120 FPS. So the game is running really, really well for me. And hopefully that just gets even better over time when they eventually do add an SLI support. If they do, hopefully they do. And they also supported 144 hertz right away, so that's good to see, this early on with the game. All right, before I jump into some of the major issues that they really need to tweak before the game does come out on October 16th, are just two small, not really small things. They were kind of big issues with the alpha, but I know they'll get fixed by the time the game comes out. And it was just the fact that the game had no party system, so you couldn't play with friends, which really kind of diminished the experience for me. And I wish I was able to get on this game with friends and play with them, because I think it would have, maybe improved my experience a little bit and maybe made me like the game more for what it is right now if I was able to play with friends. So they really missed out quite a bit by not having that functionality in right now. And another thing was the fact that there was no push-to-talk option. There was zero push-to-talk in the game. You couldn't mute individual players. It was just constant hot mic. There was like people that it was like they just found out they had a mic today, or they don't even know they have a mic, and you're just hearing whatever's going on in the background, kids crying, argument with their significant others, listening to music what have you. The only option really was to just turn down the voice chat all the way and just not have to hear them. But even that was a little bit buggy, and you had to like go back in and keep readjusting it. Even though it was set to 0, you'd have to like raise it up and then put it back down just to get rid of the voice chat, because otherwise it would like reset every time you left a round or came back into the game. It's really, really weird bug. But, you know, those kind of things, I'm pretty confident they'll get ironed out by the time the game comes out. I mean, if they don't, then I guess it's just another Ubisoft title. All right, so now down to the things that really just need to be tweaked. You know, gameplay elements that we saw in the alpha that need to be fixed before the game comes out, in my opinion, to make this a proper competitive shooter. The first thing was that there is just way too much ammo in this game. With the level of destructibility that they have in the levels, being able to shoot through the wooden barricades and other types of light walls to make sort of like kill holes that you can like shoot through and aim through walls and just or kill people through walls. You just have so much ammo that there's no reason for you to not just go ahead and just shoot through a wall just to see if there's anyone behind it. And if you do that, you're also going to be met with hit markers, so you could just spray theoretically through a wall, see if you get hit markers, and if you do, you could just keep firing on that position. And that's the other thing, is the hit markers. This game, because it's so close quarters, and they should not have hit markers in a competitive game like this. It does not need hit markers, and it really hurts the gameplay when people do spray through walls like that, just kind of fishing, you know, for hits and to see if they find anything, and they could use that as intel to know where you are and kill you, or, you know, right through the wall, or to come around and try to kill you. But I don't know why they wouldn't want to kill you through the wall, because another major issue is that there's no damage drop off when you shoot through a physical wall. You will shoot through a wall at an enemy, no matter how thick that wall is. If the bullet penetrates it, it's going to do the same amount of damage as if you were standing point blank right in front of them. There's no drop off for that, and they need to add that in. I would say almost decrease it by about half. Maybe if you want to have different damages, you know, depending on thickness of walls, like maybe if it was a thin wooden wall, it wouldn't drop off as much as like a full, you know, sheetrocked wall with like insulation and all that, like a double layer wall. So they need to introduce something there. They need to do something to balance that out so that there's not as much ammo in the game, because right now you have like almost 300 rounds. They need to put in a damage drop off for when you are shooting through the walls, and they need to, I think, get rid of hit markers, or at least allow modes that don't have hit markers enabled on. So another thing that I strongly think that Ubisoft needs to consider tweaking a bit is the heartbeat sensor in the game. As it is right now, you can basically whip out this thing and sort of have like a little tablet that you can just basically see through walls, but like Superman X-ray vision, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Previous Rainbow Six games have had similar heartbeat sensors, but it wasn't like where you can basically just see through walls, you know, with X-ray vision or like a wall hack, and that's basically what it is right now. It's like a built-in wall hack that just leaves no surprise where when you are entering or breaching a room, you're going to know where everything is inside that room, and it takes out almost like all the tactical ability. I mean, where's the tactics of using, you know, the environment, like the directional audio and things like that, to be able to identify where enemies are, and you looking around and trying to use your vision rather than just whipping out a fucking gadget that's just going to show you where everyone is. I mean, why not just introduce a minimap? Why not just make all the walls invisible for everyone, and we'll just all see where each other are coming from, and just put people on the minimap 24/7 the entire time. Everyone's visible on the minimap, what direction they're facing. I mean, you know, why not just do that? Why not just throw that in, Ubisoft? No. Nerf the fucking heartbeat sensor, get rid of the X-ray vision, maybe do something similar. I hate to even reference Call of Duty, but if you remember back in Modern Warfare 2, you had a little heartbeat sensor on the side of your gun, which just kind of indicated if there was an enemy nearby and the general direction he was in without telling you exactly, he's right here, the guy's right there, here he is, you can see them through the wall. So please take a look at the heartbeat sensor, and I hope that they do fix that and nerf it in some way or remove it entirely before the game comes out, because in a competitive shooter like this, you want to remove any type of hand-holding that you can. People want a competitive shooter that's difficult, that you have to learn and use your senses, basically. Use your sight, use your ability to hear, and the directional audio built within the game to be able to identify where enemies are. And that kind of brings me into my next thing, is the directional audio, because it's absolutely atrocious in this game. You know, you will hear footsteps, you're like, is that to the left of me, the right of me, is that above me, below me? I don't know. It all sounds the same. Someone could be above you on the roof, and it'll sound like they're in the room next to you as well. There's almost no directional audio to speak of, and that kind of stuff needs to get ironed out, because in a game like this, and it is a competitive game, you need to have good, solid audio design. Take a look at Battlefield, for example. You know, for all of its faults, and even though it isn't a competitive game, it has some absolutely impeccable audio, some of the best sound design, you know, we've ever seen in gaming. And I would like to see something along those lines brought into this game, and then even, you know, intensified even more. Footsteps in a game like this, in such small, close quarter combats where it's very fast, 5v5 rounds, you want to have extremely pronounced footsteps on floorboards, and you should be able to differentiate between floorboards and if someone's on the top of the house, you know, walking on a tarred roof, or rappelling down the side of the house, or an airplane. Everything should have different sounds, and you should be able to differentiate between them easily enough if once you are familiarized with the game and the different sounds that you're going to be hearing. The last two big points I want to touch on, basically both involve recoil. For starters, the game has almost no recoil to speak of, you know, just right away. Just standing still and aiming, there's almost no recoil, and you know, it all comes back to it's a competitive game, man. People who play competitive games want a sense of realism. We want to feel immersed in the action, and not having any recoil and turning every gun into basically just a laser beam is not competitive. And it also has like very little variance between the weapons. All the guns, all the automatic weapons basically feel exactly the same. There's like no reason to use one gun or the other. They all have iron sights, and they all recoil and control pretty much identically between the weapons. I'd like to see a lot more variance there in how the weapons handle and feel, and, you know, hopefully make it a little bit more difficult so that it's not just the spray and pray fest that they have right now. And something that also adds to that is the second point I wanted to talk about here with the recoil, is that they also need to introduce some sort of penalty for when you're aiming and moving. If you're moving around strafing or moving left and right and trying to aim, there should be a very, very big penalty there. If you look at games like CSGO and you try to strafe, it drastically affects your aim and where your bullets are going to wind up landing. It completely changes the bullet patterns and all of that stuff, and forces you, the player, to then compensate for it with your mouse and learn the recoil of those specific weapons. So they need to have some sort of specific recoil to each weapon, and introduce ways to have that affect each weapon differently depending on if you're strafing or moving back and forth, and just moving around in general. And then the very, very last thing was just a minor thing, but I would like to see it addressed, hopefully, is the time between rounds. Right now, the time between rounds is a little bit long. It kind of breaks up the combat and draws out what could otherwise, you know, it could be fairly quick matches, but it winds up just drawing it out longer and longer for no reason. I felt like a lot of times I was spending more times sitting on the screen waiting for people to choose their classes and ready up and choose and pick the maps than I was actually in the game. And a lot of that was actually held back by, you know, like people with like bad PCs or running off of mechanical hard drives. You know, we would all basically get held back in a load screen while we waited for everyone to get set up or for their PCs to load the game. And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, there should be a reasonable amount of time for people to load in, or they should fix the game so that it loads quicker. I mean, if you're already in, you know, a server for a specific map, it shouldn't have to reload the map every time where you have to like wait for other people to load in. Just please speed that up, Ubisoft. That's just the last thing I wanted to touch on. The other issues I mentioned are far greater, and, you know, actual gameplay elements that do need to be fixed before this can be considered a solid competitive shooter by pretty much anyone's standards, I would think. But that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy this review of the Rainbow Six Siege Alpha. Hopefully they do get some of these things ironed out before the game comes out on October 16th, because honestly, I thought this game was going to be much further away than it was. I didn't think we were going to see this game until like spring 2016. The fact that this game is coming out in October, you know, a lot of people were saying, oh, we're getting an alpha so early on in development. Well, now it's really not that early on in development. 6 months is right around the corner. As far as game development is concerned, they have a lot of shit they need to fix between now and then, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Are we going to get another rushed holiday Ubisoft title? Honestly, I'm thinking that's the way it's going to go, because they have a lot on their plate right now, and if they don't delay this game until 2016 and push back that release date, I think we're going to wind up getting a rush title. But I'd love to be proven wrong, because as I said initially, I like the concept of this game, the, you know, rappelling and the breaching through walls and stuff like that. The shit just never gets old, and it's performing fairly well as far as, you know, PC performance and optimization. So I would like to see this be a good game. I'd like to see it be a solid competitive shooter that people want to play with their their friends, and hopefully we can play it for years to come and just, you know, see it grow and grow and grow, kind of like a Counter-Strike game. That would be awesome, and I would love for Ubisoft to sort of pull themselves up by the bootstraps where they've basically fallen down in the past year or so from, you know, like Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed Unity and, you know, the fuck up that was Far Cry 4. Also, I mean, they just had so many bad games in recent memory, and I'd like to see them put out a solid title. Hopefully they do. Hopefully the devs working on this game can see the community feedback on the forums and on videos like this one and the ones other people are doing, like Tony Moe, my buddy from Sluntech. He's done some good videos on Rainbow Six Siege as well, so you should definitely check out his videos on it. I'll put a link down to his channel in the description below if you want to check that out. But, you know, hopefully they just take everything into account that what we're saying here, and maybe if you guys agree with me, you can let me know down in the comments below. What if you played this Rainbow Six Siege Alpha? You know, tell me if you agree with what I'm saying, or if were there any other things that maybe you noticed that I didn't pick up on that were issues within the game. I'd like to hear those as well. But thanks once again, guys, for watching the video, and stick a like on it below. Subscribe if you're not already, and if you want to help contribute to future videos or just follow what I'm doing, you could always do that on Facebook and Twitter at JokerSlunt. I'll catch you guys next time. Turn up!